Good morning, everybody. It is a work day, my regular job. Oh, joy, joy. But I wanted to check in before I start my work day. Got my coffee. It's getting low. I need to get another cup. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, I know I shared with you some of the things that I bought when I was with my sister. And one of those things was a really long t-shirt that I just fell in love with. And I wanted to show you how I wore it. I think I said I would share what I did with it. And I loved it so much that I went back and got two more really long t-shirts. Maybe it's middle age, I'm not sure, but I love the leggings and the long t-shirts these days. So there's that. Another thing is that I'm really going to try to activate quite a few listings, things that I've had ready to go in the shop, and I have just been so busy with other things lately. I've said that the yard, the visit with my sister, time with Jason, getting back into the guitar a little bit more. I am going to share a journal today, so that is coming up right after this, and a couple of things that I found while out ephemera shopping recently. What else? I guess that's it. Anyway, thanks for checking in, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Hey everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. I wanted to show you some things that I have found recently, and then I want to share a journal really quickly. A few days ago, I found a music book that was, of course, for children. You can kind of tell by that image on the front. And as I went through this book, I started to find that a lot of the pages were written on. And I couldn't help but picture maybe a mischievous little boy who had nothing better to think of than how to come up with something clever to write on his page. So you can see on this page, he has given this man a set of horns and a tail with a point. So we know what that means. On this page, my home, up above it he wrote stinks. The snow is black. Praise and thanks, no, with an exclamation point. Oh, and this is my favorite. The cow laid one. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? I think the teacher had her hands full. Dreams, he put a question mark after that. I hate them. But look, he knew enough to put a little apostrophe there because he didn't. I mean, it's clever, you know, it's really interesting. A. Riley Chester. Maybe there was someone he knew by that name. Let's see, the Marines hymn. He says, better get your pants on. At the window, Laura watches the watches. See how clever he is? The old Mexican woman is wrinkly. And look how he spelled wrinkly. R-I-N-C-K-L-Y. Is so cute. And this poor lady, he has given her horns and a mustache. As well as this, I would have loved to use this page, but it's not quite suitable anymore. The old cow died already. So look at this. You stink to a star. Okay, so that's that. Another thing I found that is so sweet. I really couldn't believe it, actually. These little, what are they called? Silhouettes? Maybe that's not the right word. I had some of these when my children were little, and it was just so fascinating to come across this set that almost looked like they were maybe professionally done. It's got a, see, I don't know if the mark on the paper just goes with the paper itself, or if if someone like a photographer almost did this kind of work. Because look at the detail. Look at the ponytail and the eyelashes. And like on this one, Look, I mean, the relief work, and you can just see it's like the stem to the glasses. So it looks like the whole family, maybe that's mom and dad, and 5 children. These are from 1963. I have considered scanning these. I'm not really sure what to do. I want to preserve them. I would love to use them in journals or artwork. They're just, I mean, they're really, really special. And I am so glad that they were kept intact and in this envelope. It really kept them from, you know, falling apart, getting dirty. So I did a journal that is a little bit different from the type of journal I normally do. I don't always gravitate towards the children's things. I do have a lot of that type of thing put up, and I love vintage photographs. I collect those and have hundreds. I love old photographs of children. But as far as just getting into a bright journal with, I guess, more modern children's things, I had not really done anything like that. But I decided to make one because I was getting to the point where I had a lot of children's things stored, and this ended up being a really, really fun project. I must say, I really like it. So on the front, you can see this little stamped piece of fabric. It says ABC. There's the little bird that I always use, kind of my stamp, I guess you could say. And the fabric on the outside is just a pretty bright, you know, it has the primary colors, I guess. The blue, the red, the yellow. And I used some yellow rickrack to make a tie for the journal. And I clearly remember when I was about 4 years old, my mother making the sweetest outfits for me and my sister, little matching outfits, and they were trimmed in red rickrack, and they were adorable. I don't know if I could find the picture of us together in those outfits, but there is one around somewhere. This journal is tied so that the strings are on the outside, and I really like the result with that. I just used a couple of charms. They're, you know, I don't remember. Again, this could be something that came from the vintage, when I had the shop, the retail shop with the clothing and the jewelry and just all sorts of things, because I did have little like trinket trays full of things and had a lot of sales of just things like that. But this reminded me, do you remember those, the toy you could get, and when I was young, it was 2 strings, was tied at the top, and each one had, I think they were clear plastic. Each one had a ball on the end, and you used motion to make the balls would arc, and they would hit at the top and at the bottom. They've made it easy now. They have a toy that has a handle on it, and it's set up so that it's not even string. But you had to develop some skill to do it when it was just attached to string. This kind of reminded me of that. In fact, I bet you could make your own. So anyway, getting inside the journal. So this journal ended up being so bright and so colorful. It's got pretty little pieces of fabric throughout. I love this little piece of fabric. Look at the little fairy sitting on the stump, and she's got the ladder. It looks like there are windows, like a little house, and a door down below. So there are some tea stain tags in this. I used my Raggedy Ann stamp to stamp that tag. There's a lot in this first pocket. I used my Mickey Mouse stamp to stamp the front of just a little blank card. There is an image from a vintage copy, very old copy, of the 3 little kittens. I must say, I never knew that they had names. I do remember the nursery rhyme, you know, the 3 little kittens, they lost their mittens. But this has the names. Once upon a time, there were 3 little kittens, and their names were Muffy, Puffy, and Tuffy. I do not remember that. I don't know if anyone else does or not. There's also just a pretty little card. You can see the children on here, a friendly hello. And I left, that's blank, and the envelope is with it. And then here is one of the prints from one of the paintings I did. It's just called White Bird, and I think I've mentioned this before. The original is in my grandson's nursery. And then this is just a clear envelope. I took this from one of the books that I used in the journal, Alice in Wonderland Meets the White Rabbit. And on the inside are quite a few little journaling cards with different Alice illustrations. There's the cover of a vintage book. Here's Alice and the White Rabbit. And I believe this illustration is John Tenniel. Alice was illustrated by many different people through the years. I like Arthur Rackham's illustrations as well. And then in this one, you can see the rabbit is brown. Look at those 2 different, completely different outfits. So let's put all this in. There is some scrapbook paper from Graphics 45. It had the different months of the year. So I pulled from that. This whole journal just made me think about school, elementary school and middle school. There are alphabet tabs throughout the journal. There's a tiny little pocket, and this came from a French alphabet book that I have that's very, very old. And some pages from Mother Goose. There's another little pocket. Sweet little illustration. That's from Graphics 45. This page says August, especially just thinking about like the beginning of school and school starting. There's a little pocket. And there's an illustration by Eloise Wilkin and a paint chip, ABC stamped at the top. It's just got a lot of primary colors, a lot of letters, a lot of children's book pages, the bright trim. Oh, and this is one of my favorite parts of this journal. So I went through the photographs that I have that are from the 1800s. Most of these are from like the late 1860s, maybe 1870s, and I pulled out all the ones of children. So I scanned 8 of those. I'm probably going to put a set in the Etsy shop, and I may put a set on the Facebook group page as well. That's where I put free digitals for anyone who's in the group. I went ahead and scanned the back. It's just really pretty, and so with both pages, of course, you scan or print one side and then flip it and print the other, and you get this pretty back. So, and these photographs are just amazing. There's a page from a children's dictionary. That's from a children's golden book about the little kitten who thought he was a mouse. There is one of the pages from the vintage music book. There were a few pages that did not have writing in them, miraculously. More Mother Goose. This journal has a lot of charms because we know how children love trinkets. There's one of the turtles. Back here was a dragonfly. And you can see the French alphabet and the little stamped letters throughout. There's Mickey. It's just all sorts of childhood things. This is a page from, I think it's also a golden book, maybe the illustrated encyclopedias that they put out. More Mother Goose. And there is just a little trinket. Again, kids just love to collect things. I know when my sister and I were little, we would pick things up when we were out in the yard and walking through the woods, and I mean, sometimes we didn't even know what we had found, but it was a treasure to us. There is another one of the old photographs. Look at her dress and the pin on the front. It is just beautiful. And there is another paint chip with a little fabric at the top, the French alphabet. Frère, there's Frère Jacques. There's more of the scrapbook paper from Graphics 45. And here is a little charm, the little deer. Now I know that Ava and Alejandrina have both sent me wonderful things to work with, and they both sent some charms. I think this was in the package that Alejandrina sent to me, and that's just perfect for this journal. Absolutely perfect. There is another little illustration from the vintage Three Little Kittens. There is another photograph from the 1800s. That little boy. It almost looks like it could be a Civil War uniform of some type. And I do have photographs that are from that age, from that era. And there's a page from the French alphabet. Another dictionary page and a book page. There's some of my hand-dyed paper. More book pages. That is from a French textbook for children. And more of that really sweet fabric. Look at the little acorn house and the squirrel. More of the French textbook. So this pocket has a couple of the little French alphabet cards. There's a card with a tea party with a teddy bear, of course. Reminds me of that song about the teddy bear's picnic. I love these illustrated pages from the, I guess it's the Golden Illustrated Encyclopedias for Children. They're really pretty books. There's a charm of the world, or a globe, and I certainly remember studying geography and being kind of fascinated that there were places outside of where I lived. There's some of my dyed paper, more illustrated book pages. Oh my goodness, and Be Still My Heart. I think this is my favorite of all of the children's photographs I have from the 1800s. Just look how different. It was a different time. Their lives were so different. I'm sure their clothes were handmade. It's just really, really fascinating. It's very intriguing. It pulls on my heartstrings to look at these pictures. They have been long gone, these people, and it's just, it's kind of sad in a way. There's another old photograph. Again, I scanned the backs of some of these so that you can scan the front and the back and end up, you know, of course, with one sheet of photographs that have the pretty front and the pretty back. There's Mickey. Pulled out some of my children's stamps for this. This piece of music, the page is really delicate. These are really old. You know, maybe you noticed on one of the others I had some washi tape along the edges, but I did not want to cover up the fly there. So, you know, it's just the nature of working with old materials, and to mend it and keep it just makes it really special. I love this card the best, I believe, from all of the French alphabet cards. The owl. And more letters. More dyed paper. That was from the Three Bears. More scrapbook paper. There's another illustration from the Three Little Kittens. And this is the text from that page. One day they were finished, and Mrs. Pussycat Mew bundled up her kittens all snug and warm, put on their new little mittens, and sent them out to play. There is a French Monopoly card, and we used to play Monopoly until we were so sick of it we couldn't play anymore, especially when my cousins would come. There's the center of the journal, picture of the hare. And here is another card with the illustration from the Three Little Kittens. And look at that image. Look at their faces. So long ago. Yep, that's pretty awesome. First they made snowballs and rolled in the snow, and then they made a big snow cat, like we make snowmen. There's Raggedy Ann again, and I stamped the word pocket. More scrapbook paper. Here is a card cut out from the Graphics 45 scrapbook paper. Here's another old image, just as pretty as can be. Another French alphabet card. This is from the book The 100 Dresses. I remember reading that to Michaela. Our favorite thing to do every night was to pop a big bowl of popcorn, and she and I would go up to her room and get in her bed, and we would read. We would read and read. We read all of the Little House on the Prairie books. We read everything. Caddy Woodlawn, The 100 Dresses. There were just so many books. And when we weren't reading, she loved to watch The Waltons or Little House on the Prairie. So we had all of those tapes or CDs. That was just, oh, what good memories. So this fabric, when I was hand dyeing the paper, I didn't want to use paper towels and just keep getting them wet and throwing them out. I used to compost paper, and maybe I will get to that point again. Right now I'm just doing vegetables and fruit scraps. But I decided to use a piece of my cotton fabric to dab up the excess dye, and it ended up being really, really pretty. So I have a few little scraps of that in the kits. And there's Raggedy Ann again. Pretty book page. More book pages. Dyed paper. There's a teddy bear again with donuts on the back. I don't know of many children who don't like sweets and donuts and things like that. Oh, look at this fella. I love this one too. Isn't he handsome and so serious? Look at his little tie. Oh, how sweet. This is kind of a tight fit in this pocket, but I didn't want to alter that photograph any. And there are a couple of little cards from a card game with the soldiers on the front. You of course can take those out if that's not agreeable to you. My children played with toy soldiers, and I am sure that back then that would have been probably on a boy's wish list, would be a metal soldier to play with. And here are some more of the Mickey tags and the French alphabet cards, the little ones. They're really neat. I took French in high school and college. I wish I was fluent. I am not. I can read it a little bit, but that's it. So I felt like for sure some of these tags had to be included because I remember being exposed to the library for the first time in school and getting a library card, and that was a dream come true. I loved reading, so being able to check out books and take them home, I just couldn't believe it. I thought it was wonderful. There's another page from the French textbook. More children's pages and illustrations and more of the dyed paper. More of the dictionary page. I love the little cow. Children tend to be fascinated with animals as well. Oh, and here's a charm. It's just a little key, and I think children are always fascinated with things like that. This little tag here says "for you" on one side, and there's a little bird, my little bird stamp on the other side. When Michaela was homeschooling, we had a really large homeschool co-op, and we would do field trips and classes as a co-op, and we would alternate weeks. But I got really, really close to some of the children in the group, and you know, children are different. Some are very outgoing, some are shy, and there was one little boy who was really quiet. He didn't take up with just anyone, but he loved me, and that meant so much to me. I loved him too. His name was Daniel, and my oldest is Daniel, so that made it even more special. But I made him his own key ring with vintage skeleton keys and all sorts of bits and bobs and charms, of course with his mother's permission. But then all the little boys wanted one, and I became the key lady. So I don't know how many key rings I made during those couple of years that they were all little and interested in that. Those are good memories though. So there's a little sticker with a ladybug. Children are always interested in insects, it seems. They may be terrified, but there's still a fascination there for sure. piece of vintage tablecloth or table scarf. And I love this page. I think that was from a Rand McNally children's prayer book or Bible book. And I had this little card with the moon on it, so I thought that was perfect for that pocket. And I just used a Sharpie to put little stitches around the edge. And there's the little birdie. So more book pages. And there's another music page. Again, it's got the washi on the edges, so hopefully that won't tear. Pretty, pretty old book page. And some birds. There's an ABC card, another French card that's been turned into a pocket. And here we are close to the back with the letter Z. There's a little tag made from Alice in Wonderland. And that was from a book about reptiles. I love this little pocket. That's made from that really sweet fabric with the fairies and the stumps out in the woods. And there's the little tiny E cut from the box that had the cards in it. I just love that. There's a card that's stamped with Tigger. Pulled out all my children's stamps for this. This tag is actually made from the book itself, from the cover. So it's really, really heavy. And here is a pretty little card. Each one of the kits has one of these. It says, "Through the peaceful nighttime hours and throughout each day, may the angels touch your life in their loving way." That's a pretty card. And then there's a print from the painting Yellow Raincoat. So, and there's a little strip of fabric from that sweet, sweet fabric. I love that. And that is the journal. It's going into the shop, and I have 6 packages or kits that are the product of putting this journal together. Just gave me the opportunity to really pull out some things that I don't look at it all the time, and it was really nice for me to do that. I enjoyed it very much. So there you go. I enjoyed doing this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.